Welcome back, Novello Nation, to another episode of the Aaron Novello podcast. We have with us a very special human being. He's somebody who's really done everything within the real estate space. Not only did he produce at record kind of volume, very, very high volume in terms of transactions and GCI, he also ran a really tight ship in terms of profitability. He turned that into a coaching company, teaching people how to scale. And now he's one of the top rev share earners with EXP in the company, growing it very fast and very quickly. He is a senior partner of mine, the one and only Mr. Lars Hedenborg. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome. And I'll add to the intro. You know, you said I've done everything in the, I've also made every mistake you could possibly make, you know, So I think there are more lessons as we unpack the journey, you know, today. I think there's more lessons in the things I can help, you know, others that are trying to make the ascension to business ownership, the mistakes they can avoid along the way. But yeah, man, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the things, like, you know, now that I'm in proximity with you, that you've really helped me with, and I really appreciate, is just your kind of insight because you've kind of done it, been there, done it, and you can point things out along that journey. So I guess for those out there, those agents who kind of don't know who you are and don't know kind of the journey, if you could quickly walk through your kind of evolution in real estate from kind of individual agent doing units and selling real estate to kind of business owner, and then we'll discuss kind of the journey after that.
Yeah, awesome. So I got into real estate 3 months before the big shift hit my market, major metro market. June 2007 is when our inventory shot straight through the roof, right? You know, as the Great Recession was hitting. You know, if you were in real estate at that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was just a solo agent. My first 10 months in the business, I sold 27 homes instantly, evenings and weekends. I was married in 2006, you know. Anders, who now is just started to drive, was just born when I was getting into real estate. So my wife has pictures of me, like, you know, on the phone, feeding him a bottle and like totally not present as a dad. So my motivation for figuring this industry out, you know, making a ton of money, but not giving away my entire life in the process was really, I was instantly like out of bounds on the hours I was working. And even when I was with, you know, my new bride and my son, and then a couple miscarriages, and then we had our second child in April 2010. But I did 27 sides, then 44 sides in my first full year, then 58, 118, 178, and then 248 in 2012. And that year I sold one of those homes on a very profitable model. You know, a lot of guys and girls in this industry. I think the girls actually do better than the guys. You know, so I'll just say a lot of guys, literally, they're all about the top line numbers, and there's not a whole lot of profit at the end of the day. So we went to 312 in 2013 and then 453 in 2014. That year I worked like 42 days, you know, and I made almost $1 million in that business. And I launched Real Estate B School the year before because the journey was really freaking hard. It was hard to figure out like what pieces, you know, what systems could I build so I could hand off certain pieces of the transaction that didn't really require me being involved in it. And that sort of with the backdrop of what do I even like to do? I'm not naturally outgoing. I'm super introverted. I'm not like a natural salesperson. I put myself into those situations because I knew there was a big opportunity to build a legitimate business that served buyers and sellers at a high level. So the game, and then we can kind of unpack it, but the game that I played was just a different game. You know, I didn't want to make $1 gazillion a year. I just wanted to make $1 million a year. I'm like, if I could do that, that would be awesome. But I wanted to work 1,000 hours to do it, which is essentially do the math on 1,000 hours divided by 50 weeks or so. And it's like 20 hours a week, you know? So not that I did it perfectly, you know, some years I hit it, some years I didn't hit it. Most years I'm not hitting, you know, just 1,000 hours, including like right now, as hard as I'm working. But it's always been this vision to make as much money as possible in as little time as possible so that I can have an impact in the areas of life that matter a heck of a lot more than selling the next home. And so, yeah, so you tell me where you want to take it, but that's kind of been the journey.
It very much so flies in the face of this like hustle culture that I think as a society, you know, we, you know, kind of buy into, and particularly within the real estate space, because there's a lot of kind of, influence within the space from people that have been influencing it, that have kind of preached this idea of hustle culture. And your mindset was more like, okay, how can I do the most doing the least amount? And I'm aware that in certain environments, they would poo-poo that or say it's stupid and dumb. And you're like, that's cool. Like, I want to make these investments in other areas in life. So did that come from more, because I know you have a background like an MBA in business. Did it come from that, like kind of building businesses or thinking like a business owner right out of the gate? Or did it come from more, you started to facilitate real estate transactions and you made a personal decision as far as what you value most, like, hey, this is unacceptable to me that traditional success in real estate is 70 hours a week?
I think it came from, a very chaotic and jacked up childhood where I saw, my mom and dad start a business. They were both hairdressers. My mom divorced my dad when I was 4. I understand alcoholism is an addiction, yet I think he went to drinking because the pressure of showing up in the home and having this failing business. 33 years he was in business and he had nothing to show for it at the end of that business journey. He was the ultimate E-myth, entrepreneurial myth. And so I think that was the backdrop. I refused to fail as a husband and a father. So that was like, I've got to figure this out. And at the same time, I was like majorly motivated to make a ton of money because I didn't have any as a kid. So this unnatural drive to make money and a healthy drive to be a good husband and father, I think those two things collided, and we get paid a ridiculous amount of money to do what we do for the most part. In 2007, I helped a father and son buy a home that they identified. It was in their neighborhood. I showed it to them, and it was a $620,000 home paid out 3%. I made $18,000 for way less than 10 hours worth of work. And I'm like, part of me is like, there's no way this could last. This is like, it felt like I was robbing somebody. And of course they're not all that easy. So, don't go up in arms about me saying that, it's easy being a real estate agent, because it's definitely not. But it sort of showed me that there could be a lot of margin in these transactions if you build the system the right way. So, but to answer your question specifically, it was, I wanted to make a lot of money. So I figured that out. But then I wanted to have freedom. So sometimes in real estate, you make the money, but you have no freedom. You have agents they're working every vacation. They're working every evening. They're working every weekend. So I wanted the money. I wanted the freedom. And then you get the freedom, and then then you want impact. So I feel lucky enough to be, I'll be 50 next year. To be at the point where I figured out some of the things. I made a lot of mistakes pretty quickly. I think I'm young to have figured out some things. So then I think if you're not where you want to be financially, or you're not succeeding in an area of life that's important to you, you have to figure out one or the other. Like, what's going to motivate you? What's going to be the carrot? And then potentially, what's the thing you can think of to do the thing you don't want to do? And, so I use that same experience watching my dad go through a 5-year, essentially he had a stroke in 2009. He died in 2014. I would think of all of the experience, sort of watching him die slowly, essentially, when I didn't want to work out. I'm like, you better get off of your ass and work out right now so you don't do that to your family. So anyway, I hope there's something in there for somebody that might be struggling, where maybe you're just sort of a little lost on how to connect the pieces. The industry is not hard. It's not hard to be successful. It's actually quite simple. You just gotta do the work.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate your authenticity. I really do. And your straightforwardness. I know that that's what will resonate with people, And what comes up for me is like this idea, like people can teach you 2 ways of doing, like you can learn in 2 separate ways. One is how to do something. The second is how not to do something. And they're equally as powerful. Like I tell people regularly, like it's unfortunate that people who really screw things up don't do seminars. Like that'd be awesome. Like imagine if there was a guy's like, hey, I totally screwed up my marriage. Like I'd be in the front row, like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Right. Or like I totally screwed up my finances. Like, okay. Right. it's interesting that you got that from that experience, and that was my experience as well. Yeah, like my father's still living, and I watch him similarly. You know, there's very little leverage in his life, and increasingly his life is getting more like just hard, right? Because he doesn't have that leverage. So it's this really powerful kind of driving force to create more of it. And you know, I always tell people, like, if you're stuck, you're usually one relationship away. Like one individual way that can give you a different mindset, a different way of thinking, a different kind of skill. And, you know, and our proximity together, like you've really been helping me with thinking. Because I very much so subscribe to that, like hustle hard. Like, you know, I did 100 plus deals a year for like 12 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice with just me and like 2 assistants and like a couple buyer's agents, listing 150 plus homes a year. And I took pride in kind of being the type of person that could do that day in and day out. And a lot of my identity was kind of tied into it. And you've really been kind of not only putting kind of software, which would be like books and ways of thinking, but also challenging me in a lot of ways to start to unwind that. So how, being that that's so pervasive, right? That hustle kind of mindset and kind of culture in our industry, like how does someone go about really starting to unwind that and think about leverage, think about the things that we're talking about, as far as like, you know, I'm aware in this mastermind group that I run, I asked them, like, what do you think is directly correlated with longevity? And they would tell me things like money, and they would tell me things like you know, health. And what was so interesting is Harvard did a longitudinal study for 75 years where they looked at the same people over and over and over again, looked at medical records, interviewed everybody. And the thing that was directly correlated with longevity was the quality of the relationships that they had in their life, which was super interesting. It wasn't status. It wasn't like, you know, their position. It wasn't their title. It was that. So I guess talk a little bit about that, because I'm aware like you're very skilled at doing that.
You ever see in the horse races, you know, the horses have like those blinders over their eyes.
Yeah.
Any idea why they're there?
It's so that way they don't get kind of distracted, and they keep running in one direction.
Distracted. Yeah, so they can run their race, and so they don't get, you know, spooked out. I guess they get freaked out if they can see like what's going on around them or whatever. I think more people, but let's talk about real estate agents, just need to run their race. Like, just decide, be honest with yourself about where you are, where you want to go, you know, a 3-year vision, a 1-year plan, chunk it down 90 days at a time, weekly and then daily, and then make good decisions every day. But run your own race, right? You know, I think it was Tony Robbins and probably others that say, you know, we overestimate what we could do in a year, but we underestimate what we could do in 10 years or 5 years or 7 years. You know, so we make these grand gestures like, you know, next year I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and then you don't lose 50 pounds. You know, because it's this grand gesture, and you're not changing who you are. You're just, you know, you're just deciding you're going to push for 90 days and whatever happens. But after the 90 days, you sort of go back to your old ways. So I think it's the same in business where, you know, if you decide today, let's say you're selling 20 homes a year, you decide today that you want to sell 100 homes in 2025. And you want to work less than 40 hours a week, no evenings or weekends. You're going to do 50 listings. You're going to have 2 agents that do 25 transactions each. You're going to have a great local licensed admin and maybe 1 VA. You could totally do it, right? But you will trip yourself up if you keep getting on a webinar, or you're getting into this system, or you're changing CRMs, or you're constantly distracted by all the stuff we're bombarded with. Right? Or you're chasing lead sources that will never, you know, give you any financial freedom whatsoever. They're just not built on an economic model that's sustainable. So I think it's just running your own race. And for someone that's figured out the money, you know, and they've succeeded at a high level in real estate, you know, you've got to start to figure out, like, what are you missing out on, and what regrets are you going to have if you keep running at the pace that you're running at, you know, and that's just not. And we've had conversations before, like really honest conversations, you know, you're not going to be measured. Nobody is going to measure you by the number of homes you sold.
Yeah.
But I promise your kids are going to measure you when they're in therapy, when they're 30, by like, oh, my dad always chose the listing appointment over me, or whatever crap is going to come out, from our kids. I know I'm jacking my kids up too, so there's no judgment in any of it.
Yeah.
But just think about how you want to be remembered. It's a pretty morbid exercise, but I have a life plan where I have essentially, this is going to sound so weird. I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but I have in my mind what I think the most important individual people or groups of people that are important to me today will say about me at my funeral. Really sort of a weird thing to even contemplate, but I want my wife to be able to think this or say this, my kids individually, what they would say, about me, the folks I served at EXP or Real Estate B School, or my men's group, my C12 brothers. And so it's just deciding how you want things to turn out and then getting to work against that. And then just really, this is the last point I'll sort of make, and then we can maybe cover something else. But I had a guy ask me one time, this was on, like, we do a weekly group call, and it was just like open Q&A or whatever. And he made the comment like, how do you stay so focused when there's so much going on in the world? And I haven't been perfect. I mean, last year's been a little bit of a crap show. I recently just removed a TV from a room that I couldn't get, it got a little bad. So I'm not, oblivious, or I definitely fall into the trap. But instantly I said to him, what I keyed into in that question was, he said, the world. Like, how do you get so much done or stay so on point when there's so much going on in the world? And instantly I thought about, like, your world versus the world. Like, there's just stuff going on in the world which we can't impact. We're going to get all stressed out about. It has nothing to do with our marriage, our kids, our financial situation. The next year is going to be the best year in real estate ever, I believe, because if you just concentrate on your world, your database, your lead sources, the activities, the you versus you in every day, you will just crush it, because all the agents are in the world. They're getting freaked out. We did a market update today, and we dissected the headlines right now about the real estate market versus the reality. So the headline is like 400% increase in foreclosures. That's the headline. But foreclosures went from, let me see if I can remember the number. It was like 200,000 last year. No, it was like 20,000 to 80,000. But when you look at the 80,000 and you look in the last 20 years, it's like 10% of what it has been historically. In a strong market, there's like 700,000 foreclosures a year, and we're at 88,000. The headline is bleeding, and it's just clickbait. Another headline was homeowners lose 1.5 trillion of equity. So that's the headline. And then we looked at the reality. We looked at the graph, and the graph shows us that, equity was just inflated for 2 or 3 years. And it's actually where it is now is massively ahead of where it's ever been, if you sort of take out the massive infusion of capital and all the printed money and whatnot. And so agents are going to get in their head. They're going to read the headlines. They're going to be fearful, uncertain, doubtful. The FUD is going to hit the fan. And I think it's going to get the best of many agents, but you get to decide, what you're going to do next year.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Having built my business in 2007, 8, 9, during like an actual financial, this is just like a, kind of pullback, but like an actual financial calamity. I know with certainty, because I built 25% year over year, that regardless of what was happening externally, we did no short sales, no REOs. We still, through mindset skills and a proper plan and staying focused, like you're saying, with blinders on, we were able to accomplish what seemed to be things that were unaccomplishable. And what I was taking notes, because you are one of the most mission-driven, kind of purpose-driven, impact-driven people that I know. And you keep bringing that to my attention. You keep like putting in front of me like, hey, impact, hey, purpose, hey, mission, right? What's up, team? We are here with the talented, very successful Mr. Lars.
Good looking.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah. Good looking.
Humble.
Yeah, humble at the same time. Hedenborg. You know, it's not a regular occurrence that I sit down with someone that like actually punched me in the stomach. You didn't physically punch me in the stomach, but you did it with a question, or really a statement. On a coaching call, you wanted me to bring you a personal win and professional win. And I had a very hard time bringing you personal wins. Professional wins were fine. And I shared with you a professional win that I'd gone to my son's soccer game. And I shared with you that he was surprised, like, and you were like, that's terrible. In all seriousness. And it really knocked the wind out of me and caused me to really stop and pause and think, you know, what I was doing and how I was spending my time. I also know that you can't give somebody something that you don't already possess. And I know part of your story is having gone down a similar track, and whether it was someone like you who said that to you, or you kind of noticed yourself, that caused you to start to make some changes. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was probably more or less just not having, you know, the comfort of a family sort of environment as a kid, and just knowing that I didn't want that for my family. And then you get into real estate, you're like, oh shit! It's like instantly it blows up in every part of your life.
Yeah, and when you were at the gala and you gave the talk, you showed pictures of you with like I think it was your son, and there's like in your as you're like on a laptop, like writing a deal.
I'm on my BlackBerry.
Yeah. So you did that, and you notice kind of, because I'm aware, like, you know, in our families, like we're leaders, right? And I think people are more influential than they realize. And we were talking last night about this kind of mental map of different levels of leadership, which really coincide with different levels of consciousness. So you had this awareness, like, hey, I want to have this like tight family unit. It's really important to me. At the same time, the world and real estate as a business was pulling you down this path of working 60, 70 hours a week, because that's what traditional success is. And, you know, that first level is like, of consciousness is to me. So was there a time where in your business you were thinking that way, like, oh man, all of this stuff is happening to me?
No, I think you and I are similar. I think we skipped the to me stage.
Okay.
To a certain extent. I mean, we were talking, you know, we do have the ability, for whatever reason, we're like massively driven, you know. So I got out of corporate America and got into, you know, this industry, and, you know, instantly found the traditional success. And that just leaves you with not a lot of bandwidth, not a lot of sort of margin in your life to show up as the dad or the husband that you really want to show up as.
Got it. So,
you know, so we were able to, and we're both like this, we're able to, you know, we have enough sort of personal accountability, and just driven, and, you know, we can hardly help ourselves to a certain extent. You know, the homes are there just to, those commission checks are ours to take.
Just to get,
And there's, you know, the industry's jacked up in a lot of ways, because most agents are, you know, they're just victims, you know, and the interest rates and the market and low inventory. You know, and that's just not, it doesn't have to be the story.
Yeah, and we both coach agents and have had coaching companies for like a decade, and that is something that I see is very, very prevalent, which is that particular level of leadership or consciousness, which is to me. So this is happening to me. You know, my sellers need to be nicer so I can enjoy myself more, or enjoy the business more, or the market needs to get better, or interest rates need to come down. And that level is where my success or failure or my personal happiness is dependent on external situations, props and players. And you were referring to the by me, which is where it's like, well, if it's to be, it's up to me. And you even said that word, which is responsibility, right? Where it's like, all right, what skills do I need to learn? There's always an opportunity in the marketplace. I just need to go and find it. I'm one relationship away from changing my family tree for the rest of our life. Now, did you always have that? Like that by me? Or was there like moment?
The dynamic in my family was, for a lot of different reasons. There was a lot of chaos, and I didn't want to bring that chaos, divorce, alcoholism, and just a bunch of stuff. And I think I just took the role of just doing the right thing in my family. So I studied real hard, and you know, my outlet to all of that was the path of achievement.
Got it.
You know, and just working hard, and almost like you can't control it. You know, it's just like, I'm gonna study for this test until I know I'm gonna get an A. I'm gonna, you know, work hard, where I sold 44 homes in my first full year in real estate.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you say that, I know what you mean. I think my wife, who's in the room, she would agree with you. She's like, can't even help himself. Like, it's like
she's nodding.
Yeah. Well, and I told her one time, I'm like, hey, if something was to happen to me, would you marry somebody that like was like totally not ambitious at all? Like, are you like, I don't know, somebody, you know? And so, but I know underneath it, at least for me anyway, I'm curious for you, what I've come to like be aware of is that achievement thing is more like, well, if I achieve more, then I'll be loved. Or if I achieve more, and it's a fear that if I don't, and if I'm not like a rock star at everything, then people won't love me, is really what that is.
Yeah, I mean, probably don't have enough time to unpack all of our baggage on this episode, but I feel blessed, I mean, in that way to have, at least that was my addiction, you know, so to speak, versus like, you know, doing way more sort of harmful things or things that are not like socially acceptable.
Yeah, it's a healthy addiction.
Achieving and making lots of money is like, it's acceptable.
Yeah, it's like, good job.
Right. But it has this massive like collateral damage that I just wasn't willing to accept, you know, all of that.
And being that you weren't willing to accept it, I know the suffix "ide," right? What it means is to kill. Homicide, suicide, pesticide, genocide. So you made a decision, this is not acceptable to me. Now, at that time though, was there anyone that you could turn to that could be like, hey, this is how you like build out, this is how you create margin in your life in the real estate business? Was there anybody that you could learn from, or was it more like you pulling from corporate America and having that background and like an MBA where you're like, oh, this is how business is like supposed to run?
I mean, honestly, I think it was my first coach. You know, I went to a conference like my second month in real estate, and the first book that coach had me read was E-Myth.
Okay.
Revisited.
Yeah.
So I think that set this trajectory that, you know, I was going to build a business, a real business that gave me freedom. Even though they're really, I mean, even at the time, teams and that whole sort of leveraged model, the team leaders had no freedom whatsoever. They were still selling like, there are still teams that are doing like 1,200 transactions with a team leader selling 200 homes.
There's still agents doing that now.
Yeah, and they're marginally profitable at that.
Yeah, marginal.
You know, so I was going to figure out a way to do it as a business where I didn't have to show up every day and just deal with the nonsense of all the drama from all of the clients all the time. It was just too much.
Yeah, and so for those who are listening, check out the E-Myth. It's an awesome book. We can drop it in the show notes here. And so that gave you kind of the mental map, like the framework of, hey, like I need somebody to make the pies, and somebody to you know, sweep up at the end of the night, and somebody to, you know, be at the register. And then you started to systematically, because you were very systems oriented. He is the Excel master of the universe. And you started to systematically build out SOPs for each part of the business. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's like, if you've seen the movie The Founder with Michael Keaton, the scene where I think it's on a tennis court, and and he's on a ladder, and he's like, you know, wiping out the chalk lines. And I mean, granted, that's you know, they called it the speedy system, but their vision was to just optimize that one thing so they can, you know, roll it out into 40,000 locations or whatever. And I kind of viewed the real estate business like that. There's so much nonsense that an agent does on a regular basis that does not make them any money, and they think it does. And the traditional model will have you think that you need to do all the 12 jobs that a real estate agent's required to do. And 10 of the 12 jobs you can hire people to do for way less than $50 an hour.
Yeah, and as you were doing this, I think you started to get, like, obviously it worked smashingly successful for you. What were you doing at that time, like 400 units or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, not every year did we do. 5 years after my first, I did 44 in my first full year, and then we did over 10 times the production with 10 agents, and I was out of production.
And you were completely out. And it was
totally
profitable.
Out. And it was, I took home 1.2 million that year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And there were some very kind of prominent voices in the real estate industry that were like, nah, you're full of shit, man. There's no way you could do that, right?
Yeah, the year before, I won't say his name, but he's been coaching for 40 years, and he's got a son that has a big coaching company too.
Yeah.
I sent out for a webinar. The title of the webinar was How I Sold 312 Homes Working 1 Day a Week.
Yeah.
And this guy, who's the OG of coaching, you can figure out who it is, sent that email, took a screenshot of that email and sent it out to his entire list. And so people were emailing me like, and he said, if you believe this, I have land to sell you, like swampland to sell you in Florida or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that is such a, it's like the, what's that analogy? They said it today in our event where, you have one crab in a bucket and the crab will get out.
Yeah.
And you have multiple crabs in the bucket, they're going to pull the crab down.
That's what that is.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah. And I'm aware it's also a lack of open-mindedness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got an email like that sent out about me too. So we're in the same camp.
It's awesome. And I was talking to that guy's son, like face to face with his son. And he said he couldn't get his dad to go golfing with him that weekend because he had a hefty event he had to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy if you think about it.
I think you can only duplicate what you are.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's interesting to know something's true. Kind of like we know like EXP is like real. It's like a real thing. Rev share is a real thing. Equity is a real thing. Collaboration is a real thing. And for other people it'll be like, nah, that's not real, right? So you're doing that and then you figured like, okay, I can teach other people how to do this, right? Was that a natural thing? Was it a natural growth? Or did people start to reach out to you and they were like, hey.
No, you still give me shit today about like not being on social media. Like I'm super introverted. Like give me a spreadsheet over like anything. I was telling Carla, like I haven't been on Facebook in like, I don't know how long. And that's the only platform I'm even on, which is not like.
Which is funny to me because you said Facebook first. That's kind of funny to me.
Right.
And what I told you today,
I go on Instagram and I get a headache.
Yeah.
Like everyone's better looking than I am. And their kids are better behaved and they're traveling all the time. It's like, what am I? I'm a loser over here.
Yeah.
So, but I forget your question.
But you still managed to like somehow build a coaching business.
Yeah. So I think it was exactly where we started the conversation, where there's a good book, I think it's called The Second Mountain, where it's like you kind of figure out your first mountain is all the homes you sell and the
grinding, the pushing,
and all of that, and then the second mountain is helping others to do it, so leading others and impact. And
did you really feel like a calling to do that, or was it more like
I remember turning to Julie, my wife, and saying, do you think I can start a coaching company? And she, when I first married her, I had this like super cozy, multiple six-figure corporate job, and then within, we weren't married yet. Yeah, like I got into real estate just after.
Start all over.
And I went from like multiple six figures, super cozy, to I think I netted $37,000 my first 10 months in real estate. I spent money on everything. I sold a bunch of homes, but I just wasted a bunch of money. And I was like, man, I've got to figure this thing out. So no, it wasn't really natural. I mean, I think there's just this higher calling where I saw a lot of, even the big players in the industry that just they didn't have a quality of life. They weren't, it wasn't balanced, and they didn't really figure out the system side, and they were still heavy in the business. And a lot of, I watched some of them, just have major challenges. And I think that was the inspiration. I was also saved in 2009. So I got into real estate in 2007. I was saved in 2009, and that just kind of got me on this journey of just more serving. And when I first started my team, it was very selfish.
Was it?
So selfish, like not as harsh as I'm going to make this sound, but they were there to serve me.
Yeah.
So it was not the model of leadership that you would read in any book.
Yeah.
Because I was so triggered, and I was figuring out how to generate all this business and sell all these homes, and but it evolved over time, and I had some really tough endings of relationships and tough conversations, and that really put me in my place, and my faith was coming along. So with this whole, model of just, not that I'm even in the same, ballpark as Jesus, but just leading more like, that just a humble heart. And I'm not as humble as I could be. Julie reminds me of it all the time. She's like, yeah, he's working on his humility.
I think my wife would say the same thing. I don't know if I'm working on it though. That's so good. Yeah. So it was a natural evolution in conjunction with kind of, faith, and also a desire to help other people, because you noticed and you looked around. So it's interesting. So at the beginning you said, I didn't want to bring this to like my family. Like what you experienced as a young person. But then what happens is like, so once you did that for your family, now you start to look out and be like, well, I don't want like my neighbors to be dealing with this stuff. And that's like, the real estate community. So it's like, all right, let's expand our level of awareness to them. And for the last, I don't know, decade, you've been teaching agents how to scale and systematize their real estate business so they can reclaim margin and have time and all that other stuff.
Yep. Yeah, without losing their life in the process.
Yeah. And then how did EXP, because you're like doing your thing. You're like a successful coach. You've sold all the real estate. Yeah. And then what caused you to be like, how is EXP tied into the through me thing?
I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier. You said something like, how did you say it? You kind of make these decisions, the IDE.
Yeah.
Yeah, so killing off pieces, to kind of go in different directions. And EXP was a hard no. Like it was I actually had a really bad experience with friends of Julie came to visit us. And this was when, remember the acai juice, the Monavi?
Yeah.
That was like the first sort of mainstream MLM, as I remember it. And they came and we had this great dinner catching up, like, these are great people. Yeah. I am not kidding you. And Anders was like young, and it was the witching hour. He was acting up and they were still here. And the husband whips out this DVD.
And launches into it.
And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? I got so pissed.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You were mad.
And he was inviting me to this thing and giving me the business opportunity. I'm like, I haven't tasted the juice yet. So I just had this like weird sort of notion of multi-level marketing. And but once someone you trust, slows you down to actually look at the model, and your analogy with YouTube is brilliant. But revenue share is not evil.
No.
It is like the most beautiful thing there could be.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like someone designing a model where you could benefit in the upside of growing the business. What part of that is like...
It's the democratization of like profit.
Yeah.
Where it just makes it available, where in the past it was restricted to a very a very small group of people.
And in this model, it's not profit. It's the founder of the company decided to give 50% of the revenue away to the agents that built it.
That's right.
So it's like, so it's a really elegant model. And for the most part, brokerages there's only so much a brokerage is going to do, period. So I have a different view on, a lot of the competing cloud-based brokerage models. I think they're fine. I think EXP is great. I think EXP has, all the growing pains out of the way. I think they're totally operationalized. Our leadership's amazing. Sustainability, we have the right financial model. So I think we are on the right platform. But if you just said they were all the same, let's just say they were all the same. It's who you partner with.
Yeah.
And and what you can do to help them grow their business.
Oh, and I can attest to that tremendously because I've shared it with you more than once. But our probably 6 or 7 months that I spent talking to you twice a month was intricate to me mentally getting over the hurdle of letting something go. Because if in that buy me stage we were talking about, it's really about control. And you get the specialized knowledge, right? And you learn kind of certain mental maps, you have some discipline and consistency. And then what happens is you can start to kind of, I don't mean this in an egotistical way, it's just true. It becomes like at will because you can control it. It's easy to set appointments, easy to go take listings, easy to go just keep doing that. And for that reason, it's very difficult to let it go. And we were on a call and you were like, yeah, man, like your biggest impact now is, it's not about money, it's about impact and time. And your biggest impact is no longer sitting in living rooms. It's sitting in a room of 4,000 or 5,000 people and teaching them, right? So that's a testament to it because what this model allowed to happen is you were a guy that I was even in your coaching program, never talked to you, right? Because, there's another coach. And then and you're the one that also helped me to see the model when you explained the difference between profit share and revenue share. I used to be with KW. And you're like, yeah, it exists in that model too. It just goes to one person. I'm like, oh, yeah, it does. That's true. So you helped me see that. Then you also helped me to let go, and you helped me to focus on things that were more important. But the model allowed that to happen. If it wasn't for the model, that would have never happened because I wouldn't have spoken to you.
Yeah, and also not to give away any of the details, but when I asked you guys to put your financials together, and I told Carla that she forgot to fill out the bottom of the spreadsheet. It was all zeros. Yeah. And I said, she's like, yeah, we don't have any liabilities.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then for sure you got to give up production.
Yeah, I know. And then we got on call. You're like, bro, why are we even having this conversation, dude?
This is not the right conversation.
Yeah.
But there aren't many folks like, so when you decided to pivot, I don't know anyone that would have made that pivot the way that you did.
Really?
And no, I mean, it was, so I mean, I'll give the numbers. I mean, I think you were doing like 800,000 of PCI.
850, 900, something like that.
Yeah. So, and once you sort of wrapped your head around, and it is this conversation of the 3 levels of leadership. And for you, I mean, you're going to have the ripple effect of the coaching and the rev share, and just the combination of the two will have way more impact than you just selling like 100 or 200 homes a year or whatever it is, and doing that for another 10 years. And so the fact that you were willing to make that decision and just like kill off I don't think if I lined up 1,000 agents that you were the 1 out of 1,000 that would make that decision.
That would do that.
And it's just like, and you're just delaying, like that cash flow is going to come back, but it's going to be way more elegant.
Yeah, it comes back with time freedom and location freedom.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and what's cool too is and I appreciate your kind words. What's cool too is that all of that impact though, like you have a hand in, because you helped me to make that transition. Yeah. Because without those conversations, or with you, you'd be like, yeah, man. So when are you like not going to go on listing appointments anymore? I'm like, I don't know, maybe in like 3 months. He's like, oh, I was thinking like next week. And I'm like, what? Come on, man, like give me a second. And then my wife like, yeah, like you should start right now.
He hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, I know. And then you would have to be like,
give him a second.
You would have to be on calls. You'd be like, he's making progress. Okay, he's at least talking about it now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm super appreciative and grateful for that.
Yeah, it's it's something that I mean it's going to continue to grow. And I was, in a down market. So I was looking at my numbers recently. In a down market, I mean, every agent let the market dictate how they showed up.
Sure.
And net, I think my organization grew by like 150 agents or so, and it was only the growth of your organization that did it. You just refused to accept that the market was going to dictate, what happened to you last year.
Yeah.
Where most agents, it's that first level. this is just happening to me. The market's not allowing me to succeed, or my sellers aren't, whatever.
Yeah, and I find that the like a little bit is that by me, but I think also like a big component of that is through me. And I think it also protects and shields you from like getting not humble about it, where it's like no man, like you don't understand, like this comes through me. And I felt when we were having those conversations, it's interesting because your comfort keeps you from your calling. And I was just like comfortable. But through you, perhaps, I was receiving a message which was like, hey man, like I let go of that so you can do this other thing. And I think when you're driven by purpose, that's entirely different than being driven by money. I think it's much more powerful. I think, people tell me they burn out. I'm like, you're not a candle. You're like a spiritual being. Like, how could you possibly burn out? Like you have the same force inside of you that causes the earth to spin around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. How could that possibly ever burn out? And I think it's just because of a lack of purpose or mission. So I guess for you, over the next, because how old are you?
50.
50. So over the next, 10 years, what is your purpose and mission?
Man, to launch my kids into the world well. I can probably cry thinking about that. That seems like pretty weighty. I've got a 13 and a 16-year-old. And then, just being in the best shape of my life to enjoy the next 20 years after that.
It's awesome.
So that's the big purpose. And just continuing, and not everybody in my work.
I started reading this interesting book about leadership and duplication. But it talked about leadership being really just like different levels of consciousness. And the first level of like leadership or consciousness is like to me. And it's like victim mentality, which is like my happiness and my success is external to me. But then there's by me, which is like if it's to be, it's up to me. You take like extreme ownership and accountability. And the bridge from to me to by me is responsibility. 95% of this population spends 98% of their time in to me. And he's like, all you have to do is look at the news. Something's bad happening, it's outside of you, they're the reason why, they're wrong and you're right. But then the next evolution is through me. And that's where like as a leader or as a human, you start to have this awareness like there's something else that wants to accomplish something through me.
That's where you are now. That's where you're getting to.
That's where I'm getting to. And I think it's in conjunction, I can feel that.
Yeah, because you mastered the
Buy me.
The buy me.
Well, and the interesting thing is, do you know what gets you from buy me to through me? Surrender and letting go. But the reason why it's so hard is once you master the buy me, you're in control. It's really hard to let go of control. So conversations with you, also I think reading the Bible for a year, starting the Bible study, where now this through me thing, now when you say to me it's only money, I get it. Yeah. But you said it to me a year ago, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Lars? Like literally, I'm like, what are you saying? I don't understand.
But it really is. But it's also because we have the ability to go out and make it.
Yes.
Like
at will.
People have different problems, you know?
But I also have this feeling where like, and it's interesting to articulate, I haven't told it to like too many people. When you were telling me like, hey man, like you're being called to like have an impact on more people, that was like a nudge in the through me, in conjunction with like reading the Bible, in conjunction with the Bible study, where like what it really feels like is like that presence or being saying, hey, I want you to do this. And when you do it, you're in alignment with like his will, and as such, this gets easy, easier. The kingdom of heaven is within you. When I say that, people think a geographic place, but kingdom in Greek, that's not what it means, that word. What it means is royal power, royal dominion, and royal control. That's a totally different message. One is like this space is within you. The other is the power, the royal power, royal control, and royal dominion is inside of you to make it here as it is there. That's a call to action. It's a call to lead.
Can you imagine going back and selling houses?
Never. Like literally, I'm driving around on my way home. I'm like, why would I ever, God? Or like, even if because I'm never on the road at like 6 o'clock. I used to not get home till like 8 o'clock. I'm like, I can't even imagine like, and I used to be excited, but like driving home at 7 o'clock having missed dinner, I'm like, I would never do that. Yeah. Ever.
And you told me that Carla once said to you, like, you were almost telling her that you were a little bit, like, almost apologetic for how hard you worked, and she was like, honey, you created this amazing. Yeah. So, you know, it's not all bad.
It's not all bad. No. It's not, and I think that it's interesting because the rub is I think, in a way, you have to go through that season.
100%.
You have to. And what I try to tell people, it's like the Rocky cutscene. Yeah. Like, you know, in the movie Rocky, where he's like punching the meat and running up the hill. Everybody I know that's achieved really outsized outcomes have gone through that. Yeah. At least, and it could be 5 years, could be 7 years, could be 10 years. Just depends on how long it is. Yeah. But me and Carla did this this like couples retreat, and they have this they call them ceremonies. But one of the ceremonies is you take a rose petal, the rose, and you pull off a petal and you look right at the person, square your body, and you're like, I appreciate, fill in the blank. Few things you become aware of. One, you don't do that often. But also, two, there's a lot of fucking rose petals. So you gotta like really...
Oh, like you're doing...
Each one.
Oh, that's awesome.
I go, she goes, I go, she goes. So you really gotta like dig and think about it. And like good stuff comes up. But the second one was, I'm sorry. And she looked at me and she was like, I'm sorry you had to miss out on some of the stuff with the kids. I fucking, like, bro, I went from being like totally fine to like, I couldn't even contain myself. It like pierced right into my chest.
But the fact that she said it to you.
Yeah. Like knowing that like, I know you did that for us, but I'm sorry you had to do it.
And not harboring any resentment.
No.
Or even along the way. There were probably times she was
There was friction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that through me thing, now I have words to describe what I'm feeling. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That concept of like, and what I think this is, the majority of it is getting people that are into me to buy me. Because I think that other journey is different, and I'm not saying it because...
It took me forever to realize that most people just are never going to step into the game.
I was telling Carla, like, the through me, first you have to believe in something that's bigger than you, or have faith in something that's bigger than you. That could be the quantum field, that could be God, that could be love. It has to be something.
I'm gonna go look at the spa menu with Derek.
The what menu?
Spa.
Okay, you have your phone? That happens first, but then two, you have to also, I feel like, go through the whole buy me thing. I told Jose, I was having this whole long conversation with him, like, bro, The reason why it's so hard for you to get out of production is because you're finally in control. It took you 10 years.
At the highest level.
At the highest level, and now you can do it at will. So it's very difficult to let it go.
I still think you'll build a big coaching company too.
You do?
I think so. I think you won't help but be able to do it.
Yeah, it'll happen.
On your terms, just stick to your 10 or 12 clients.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll have people that come through that crush it, that can coach 10 or 12 people.
Yeah, Jessica, who's here, she's one of the coaches for us right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't coach anymore, but I'm ramping up my coaching company again.
You are?
And I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm now finally out of sales. I got a sales guy to replace me.
Yeah?
I went back into sales. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Dude, I worked hard from October.
Like you being the sales guy for coaching calls?
Yeah. From like October to like the end of July, like for 4 months straight.
You were doing it all?
Doing it all.
Why
I did
though?
150, 160 because I redid the whole coaching company, the whole offer.
But why did you feel like the need to be in the sales thing?
Because the guy was a lot of reasons. I'm coached by same guy that coaches like Grant Cardone's sales team.
Okay.
Like the coach I have now is probably it's Cole Gordon.
Okay.
So it's one of his guys who was a closer for him. That's now a coach for him. And he said we had to recraft the whole offer. I rewrote all the marketing, filmed the VSL, restructured everything, and I had to figure out if I could sell it or not.
Okay, so you had to
and I had to hear people say, was the marketing hitting and the sales call,
and what the objections are going to be, and like all
that. All of it. I mean, it's not completely dialed in, but I'm out of it now.
That's awesome.
So, because I got to do something for the next 5 years.
But what are you going to do after 5 years?
Well, that's when Kendall will be in college.
And then what? You'll just disappear?
Nah, I'll probably be through another 5 years.
Right?
But I'm only committing 5 years at a time. No, I'll be doing stuff actively in business until I'm 60 probably.
Yeah?
But when I'm 55, I really want to be like not way less checked in.
And more checked in. What are you going to divert your energy to?
I think Open Eyes. You know the organization I went to Nepal and
just spend more
Africa with them this year.
Yeah, with your son, right?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Should be awesome. So I could easily. I mean, he attracts some real talent. The guy that runs that I'm really close with.
Well, and you can also, I'm imagining. Did you ever read the book Halftime?
Oh yeah, I've read all that. Bob Berg.
Yeah, so like.
He referred it to me.
Yeah, so like you could channel all of everything you've learned into like an organization like that.
I listened to Halftime when I was turning 44. I was on a long run down Hilton Head on my 44th birthday. I'm like, this is Halftime. And then I re-listened to it like 6 months ago. And I realized that I really didn't. I mean, I guess to a certain extent I've restructured. Whatever you bring. But I haven't really done as much as like, I'm definitely like square in the third quarter now. So now it's
rounding
really
third?
Yeah, I mean the third quarter is like essentially it takes you through like, early 60s or whatever. But I definitely want to do something I like stuff like this. I mean, I like business, I like helping agents. But I think there's like a lot of struggle in the world at large.
Oh yeah.
That's just.
I was telling Jess, like, because with her agents, there's, stuff comes up. And I'm like, dude, I need you to understand something. She's like, what? I'm like, you're dealing with a broken pool. 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck. That's 7 out of 10, bro. You're standing at Starbucks, 7 of them
can't afford that cup of coffee.
I heard something the other day that the average realtor in North America has $4,000 in savings.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's insane. That would surprise me. It's that much.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, but like I get people on calls like crying, like telling me all their stuff. It's like all the background stuff that's going on in their life.
Yeah, it's a jacked up industry. That is motivation. I talked to, they were 30 years in real estate, a husband and wife, and they didn't have, I'm like, it's an $8,000 90-day program that I'm selling now.
They didn't have the $8,000?
They didn't have $2,000.
Wow.
I had to make them take out a credit card.
You did?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't have anything. I have nothing. And then they had a small team, so they needed stuff that we could
change. Nothing's going to change.
No, and they're doing really well.
That for them you want to be like, oh, should I ask them to do this? But it's like, that's what they need. That's putting their back up against the wall. Like, that could be the change for them.
And you're, when you do something like that, for me, like I'm not a hardcore closer.
I know. I find that so interesting that you would do that.
Like, you got to do it. I've gotten people. I mean, I get into their finances.
You got that guy. I forgot his name that we were both talking to. He signed up. He didn't have the money either.
Yeah, he had to go 2002.
Yeah.
He didn't have.
He didn't have it. That's unbelievable though.
But that's like everybody.
I know, dude.
I mean, like maybe 3/4 of people don't have like
right.
At least a two-pay. They don't have $4,000.
No.
When I joined Craig Proctor, I couldn't afford anything. I made them right on what was like white, green, yellow, pink, the 4 different. I made them right on it. Will not charge credit card for 90 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I got everything. I had nothing. Like my mom had to sponsor me $500 to get to the event.
You told that story at his event.
You did.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the content from that? It was so good.
Yeah, your content editor is great.
That
was
little
so
short,
good.
that little short of me talking about you calling me. Did you see that?
Yeah, so good.
Good, yeah. It was good.
So good.
I was like, my palms were sweating. I'm like, we were united.
What are you doing?
6 days later,
Yeah, it was so fast.
and on the Tuesday after the Saturday, I had to tell Thomas I was leaving.
I was just telling somebody about that story this past week, and they were like, what? Like that fast? And I'm like, yup.
Yeah, because fear trumps facts. It's interesting because you would think, because we do these events all the time, and I'm always like, either I'm doing the event or I'm the closer. I'm the EXP guy at the end doing the talk. And you would think when I show people the numbers and I explain it the way I do, they all leap out of their fucking chairs and they're like, let's go. That's not what happens. You know what I've noticed? I think a couple things happen. One is I think the numbers, they don't compute. They don't seem real. I'll show them those numbers and they'll be like, yeah, but isn't there like a $25 broker review fee? I'm like, bro, did you just see what I just showed you, bro? Like, why the fuck are you even thinking about that, right? So that's number one.
Tell me more about the startup fee.
Yeah, but the second thing I noticed is that people don't see themselves in me. And they'll tell themselves a story. They'll be like, oh, well, John is like, oh, Lars is like, and it's like, yeah, but then let's say,
that's why you got to get to these events.
Well, I had a conversation with that Freedom Builders Mastermind I run, which are high-level dudes, like 750 or more GCI. And I was like, hey, what if somebody came to your market and said there's no deals in the Carolinas? None, no listings. What would you tell them? Like, yeah, it's not fucking true. I'm like, okay, what would you tell them they need to do? They need to learn the skills how to do it. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, don't you guys say that shit to me all the time? She's like, oh, bro, the media and this. I'm like, you just got to learn how to do it, dude. It's not...
I came into this too, being on the road for a year and a half. I was unplugged, dude. I haven't talked to anybody. So all the relationships that I had, only the really, really good ones were there still, because I hadn't talked to anybody in like almost 2 years.
Really?
And now I'm calling people up. Hey, what's going on? You know, so it was like a long delay in that process to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
They're like, why is John calling me? I haven't heard from him in years.
Wow.
Jason Chimbaugh, hadn't spoken to the guy in at least 2 years. Halfway through watching the 30-minute Brent Gove model.
He's like, I'm ready.
He goes, John, can I interrupt you? Hold on a second. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on, Jason? He goes, are you doing EXP? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'm in. Didn't even let the video play.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's funny you had that.
But,
I want to do like videos on, because I don't think people, I don't, not that I think, I know they don't read ICAs at all. And I wanted, they don't read them at all. I'll be like, yo, what's your ICA say? They're like, what? I'm like, you know that thing you signed? They're like, what are you talking about? They don't even look at them. But I want to do like this thing that's baffling to me, and I don't know if people would, you know, if it would cause like a ruckus, but like how Compasses or Caldwell's, their model is legitimately taking advantage of contractual law. Like that's what it is. It's basically trapping agents, because we all agree.
are we talking about Compass?
Yeah, or Compass or Caldwell, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
Where like, essentially like...
The agents don't even know that when they take the marketing fee that they're re-upping the entire contract again.
For 3 years.
Yeah. awful.
Dude, it's awful.
I have a guest that's supposed to be here, and he had another conversation with his attorney and got so disheartened. He's just kind of like,
I got 2 guys who just came recently. One paid $77,000 to get out.
Yeah.
Another one $55,000.
And he's complaining about the 70 or 100,000 he's going to pay. I'm like, dude, you're paying it anyway.
Yeah.
If you wait another year to come to EXP, you paid more than that in split.
Yeah, my 2 guys paid it.
But they don't have it.
He didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, what are they going to do?
But I think that's horrible.
It's shitty. It's like, you're trying to trap me? Like, F it, I'm going anyway. That's what I do.
Yeah. That's what Ben did.
The franchise that my wife had, they tried to hold me in, and he was with me.
Well, on the personality profile, you probably have a high need for independence.
Yeah.
I do too. I also have a high need for dominance.
I have a high disregard for authority.
Yeah. You know what I notice about myself, bro? Like, I'll be somewhere, and like, let's say you're out and about and somebody says something to you, like, hey man, like you shouldn't do that over here. I'll be like, what? Like, it's like for no reason. I'll be like, what do you, like, why? Why? Who says?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I always want to challenge it.
But like, I think, remember how I was saying to you, like, they're like, oh, what should we do? What people should be doing is media that talks about this shit, because nobody talks about it. Like, bro, like they contractually take advantage of agents' lack of financial strength and lack of business acumen and lack of like contractual law.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And it's like, it's their business.
Yeah.
I think Coldwell Banker went through a lot of buying agents for a while.
Oh yeah, they offered Jose 250 grand.
It's like you're literally gonna pay that money back to them. And
Jose was smart enough to see through it.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a payday advance. I'm just gonna give you all the money back.
Yeah.
But it works because they just don't have any money.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, they were like,
$100,000 to walk away from my franchise, plus I lost hundreds of thousands in the build out.
yeah,
But I was like, that's the best money we ever spent. Screw
yeah.
you.
I lost 42,000 on the shares back to KW, and I capped twice.
Oh wow.
So it was like probably 80 around the horn. But I knew, same.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, fuck it, it's fine. I made it all back in 1 year in rev share.
I hired you
125.
and guys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
He's the shit.
We just got a $185,000 tax bill last week. I'm like, this is stupid. Like,
I told you, you saw what he did for me, right?
yeah. I'm still with Provision. Those guys are awful now. They're so unresponsive.
No, and Provision's more like, I view them as like, we use them.
I'm gonna use. He's gonna recommend me a service.
They're just like bookkeepers, bro.
Yeah.
But like I have a meeting with him in March where he brings like 5 different investment vehicles to the table.
That's cool.
That's like, yo,
He likes that real estate part.
yeah, if you do this, 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 and this, different vehicles. So last year we did oil and gas. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
That's 90% depreciation year 1.
Wow.
So you invest 100 grand, it's $90,000 top line off your taxes.
And it's an easy investment to get in or out of.
You give the money, and what happens is you get distributions quarterly. But it's not like, the way he explained it to me, he's like, dude, this isn't like the fucking Wild West.
Can you sell it?
No. But he's like, this isn't like the Wild West where like they're like, is there oil here? It's like, they already drilled it, it's there. You know what I mean? They're already pulling it out of the
What's
ground.
your recapture rate on that investment?
11 to 12% per year.
Oh, that's cool.
So like probably
So
over.
it's a solid investment, and it's all the tax.
And it's tax benefit. And then I also bought a short-term rental last year, and that was 80% depreciation year 1.
What?
Short-term rental.
Oh yeah.
And what I did is I paid cash for it, but I have like an operational partner. So me and Carlo don't do anything. I just see when there's bookings. He sends me the statement at the end of every month and wires the money into the account. So it's just figuring out. And then I did the insurance thing that you did.
No life insurance?
And what I did is I sold, because I had like 2 accounts. I had like a with index funds in it, a taxable account, but I had a retirement account too, like a.
You rolled your retirement account into that?
I liquidated. No, the way it works is
It's like you put a wrapper. It's a,
yeah, you put it inside of the retirement account. I liquidated index funds in the retirement account to fund it. You do that for 3 years, and then after 3 years, you pull it out. Now it's out of jail.
Yeah.
There is a tax consequence, but there has to be a death benefit to have insurance. So say you have an $8 death benefit, you're like, hey, I need 150 grand to pay my tax thing, and they give it to you. And there's no taxes on that money because it's a loan.
Yeah, we'll probably do that too.
And then what he said is like after 4 years, you can, or if you don't, he didn't turn his on, but after 4 years, you can turn it on where you can go to them based on, they take all your blood and shit, your health rating. They'll give you, let's say like 50 grand a year for the rest of your life. As from your death benefit, and it's tax-free in all 50 states.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
dope.
I'll probably do that. I've got 3 big policies on me. And I'll probably...
Turn it on?
Yeah, probably when I turn like 60.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I don't know what even the cash value is going to be something crazy like 9 or 10 million.
Yeah, and you'll probably make like $8,000 a month or something, $10,000 a month.
It'll be... Just got to get the kids out of the house and launch so I don't have to pay so much money
For their activities.
Even Anders volleyball is like, not cheap.
All the travel and stuff,
Yeah.
We only need 12% to make this company go. You guys know we revenue shared $202 million last year. Does everybody know that number? $202 million. It's not really far out to think that we're going to revenue share over the next 4 years $1 billion. Probably.
Welcome back, Novello Nation, to another episode of the Aaron Novello podcast. We have with us the real estate millionaire maker, right? Somebody who's done 400 units in the last 12 months on his team, over 1,000 units in his brokerage, which he owns. And that's